Good morning. Thank you to everybody for being here today. Beautiful day in Chicago in this beautiful setting. We're just glad to announce and confirm that for the first time in this country's history, a presidential center will be in the heart of an urban community. The President and First Lady are proud that the Obama Foundation is developing the Obama Presidential Center on the South Side, a community that they call home. Of course, we all know the South Side is a historical place with vibrant institutions like the DuSable Museum, the University of Chicago, and the Museum of Science and Industry. There are also strong, really strong faith communities, successful business leaders, and important community-based organizations that do really good work here on the South Side. This is also a part of the city that will benefit greatly from the development of the center. We are committed to supporting the efforts to encourage economic growth and engagement that will span across the area. Just last week, I think the city announced an ongoing economic growth and engagement effort, and we look forward to working closely with them, along with President Zimmer, Alderman Hairston, Dow, Cochran, and King, and Dr. Brazier and Pastor Barrett on this effort to improve the economic condition on this side of town. Not only are Jackson Park and Washington Park just a few miles apart, but they were originally conceived by Frederick Law Olmsted as one park, South Park, which is joined by the Midway. Both Jackson Park and Washington Park had their benefits and challenges as we worked our way through the selection process, and the choice to choose Jackson Park was not an easy one. But the President and First Lady saw that both sites were exceptional locations, and we actually didn't think we ended up having to choose between them, that this is actually one community, and the distinction between Washington Park and Woodlawn is really an artificial one. But Jackson Park, with its aesthetics, its iconic location, the historical relevance of the World Fair, we just think that it will attract visitors on a national level, a global level, and bring significant benefits to both communities. And we think that locating the center here is probably the best way to benefit the larger South Side together. So we think this choice is best for the overall community. And that's the most important thing. Although we've chosen Jackson Park, our support for the efforts in both neighborhoods for growth and engagement will not be limited to one side of the South Parks. We'll be focused on Washington Park just as much as we are on Woodlawn and the Jackson Park area. And we see that this will spur significant economic activity in both communities. So we're particularly focused on that, of demonstrating our commitment to both sides of the park, the east side and the west side of the park, and we look forward to this process as we go forward. Thank you. I will invite Mayor Emanuel up to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. Most importantly, thank you, the President and the First Lady, for, as I said, I didn't care whether it was on the west side or south side as long as it wasn't on the upper west side. And I'm glad that it's here in the city of Chicago. And this is a unique opportunity, historically, a unique opportunity that I want to make sure the entire city of Chicago, and specifically the south side of Chicago, benefits from a once-in-a-lifetime cultural and educational investment. And, there are 3 cities in the United States that have north of 50 million visitors and tourists: New York City, Orlando, and the city of Chicago. And with this investment today, we will double down on that ability to continue to grow the economy, grow educationally and culturally, and as we say through our aviation system, the world can come to Chicago. And with this investment, we will be bringing more world leaders and guests from around the world, around the United States, to the city of Chicago, and specifically to the South Side. And this is a tremendous opportunity for the city of Chicago. And when you look at the 1-2 punch from the University of Chicago to our museum campus here on the south side, there will be jobs, economic growth, and opportunity, obviously for the entire city, but specifically for the area throughout the south side. And as just recently as last week, we announced a new award for the 55th Street L station at 55th and Garfield on the Green Line, continuing that opportunity to bring people to the community, and we have an additional investment announcement this Sunday. So this moment in time, we all need to seize. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to then make a series of investments that affect the entire South Side, so every part of the city, and specifically the South Side, see the economic, cultural, and educational gains. And a key part of that effort has been the University of Chicago, and specifically under Bob Zimmer, who has been a real partner to the city and the community in investing and making sure all parts, not just the students at U of C, but the surrounding community receives that benefit. And when you look at what the University of Chicago plus the museum campus, we are now uniquely positioned with the library to make an impact on the South Side for all parts of the South Side to receive the educational and cultural and economic benefits. And that partner in that effort has been Bob Zimmer.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor Emanuel. So over 120 years ago, the University of Chicago was founded, and it was founded amidst an historic moment for Chicago and the South Side, and that was the presence of the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition. One legacy of that is this building that we're now standing next to that now houses the Museum of Science and Industry. And today, the University of Chicago, in partnership with the City of Chicago and our Southside citizens and our Southside communities, are very happy to mark another historic event that we at the university share with the City of Chicago and the South Side, the announcement of the siting of the Obama Presidential Center here in Jackson Park. The Obama Presidential Center is going to celebrate an historic presidency for our nation, one that in many ways grew out of the City of Chicago and the South Side. But it will, of course, be much more than that, as we've heard the mayor and Marty Nesbitt already begin to describe. The Obama Presidential Center here in Jackson Park will provide an array of new opportunities for our young people. It'll be a catalyst for economic development, cultural enrichment, and community program. The South Side is home to rich traditions of arts and culture, a strong community spirit, and sustained social engagement. And the foundation selection of this site, a selection that we mark today, is another exciting step for a project that will enhance these activities and that stands to benefit all our neighboring communities and the Chicago region as a whole. The University of Chicago itself has a deep interest in this historic project, which has been made possible thanks to the effort, support, and enthusiasm of our local communities, civic groups, City of Chicago, and in particular, of course, Mayor Emanuel and all those who have worked hard on this project, all of our local aldermen, some visibly and some behind the scenes. Many faculty, students, and staff of the university community have indicated great enthusiasm for the opportunities that the Obama Presidential Center will provide and the positive economic impact it will bring to the South Side. They're likewise excited about the opportunities for research, collaboration, and engagement that the center will bring as a destination with a wide array of visitors from across the nation and around the globe. And as the work on the Obama Presidential Center proceeds, we look forward to working with and being a good partner to the city, the mayor, the Southside communities, all of our aldermen, our community groups, and to seeing the realization of this historic project and its impact. So thank you, and now please join me in welcoming Dr. Byron Brazier to the podium. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Apostolic Church of God, the Arthur M. Brazier Foundation, the Network of Woodlawn, and the entire Woodlawn community, I would like to thank the President personally, as well as the First Lady, for choosing the Woodlawn community to be the home of the Obama Presidential Center. Many have asked, what does it mean? What does this mean for Woodlawn? I believe it means that the hopes and dreams of the generations of Woodlawn residents and stakeholders can be better realized. I believe that we are now in a position to build upon the foundation that has been laid by the leaders before us and those that are still here with us today. I believe that we are now have the opportunity to envision a healthier and stronger Woodlawn and its current residents and those that are to come. But we in Woodlawn also recognize that this presidential center does not impact just the 2 square miles of Woodlawn, but also the Washington Park community and other communities on the south side. We now have the opportunity to strengthen not just the physical landscape, but also the human condition. What we envision is to build greater capacity in our schools, to address the personal economies of our residents, and to develop new methods for the delivery of human services. The entire community looks forward to engaging with the Obama Foundation, the mayor and other city officials, the University of Chicago, to collectively maximize potentials and possibilities of this tremendous opportunity. I now would like to introduce to you the next presenter, my esteemed colleague, Reverend T.L. Barrett, the pastor of the Life Center Church located in Washington Park.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brazier. Good morning to everybody. Honor to our mayor and to all distinguished guests. I have been pastoring in this city, one church, for 48 years, which means I'm looking forward to retirement in 2 years. And I have prepared my son, Executive Pastor Tory Barrett, to succeed me. However, I have challenged him to do not just succeed me, but to exceed me. And the fact that I am standing here today representing him means that, in a way, he has already exceeded me. Because this is the most historic and important announcement that I believe our city has ever had. And I'm taking part in it representing my son. Somebody ought to give my son a round of applause because he wished he could be here, but his duties called him to be out. Listen, he did not pay me to be here, but I would have paid him to have me here because of the significance of this occasion. I see Chicago being blessed and coming together as never before. Thank you so much to our President and First Lady for choosing Chicago and the South Side. And now it is my distinguished honor to present our next presenter, who is the alderman and the representative of our 3rd Ward of the City of Chicago, County of Cook. She is a member of the City Council's Housing and Real Estate, Transportation, and Public Landmarks, Rules, and Health Committees, just to name a few of her meaningful involvements. Our worship center, the Life Center Church of God in Christ, is in her ward. Please help me welcome our alderman of the 3rd Ward, Alderman Pat Dowell.
Thank you, Pastor Barrett. Good morning, everyone. The people of Washington Park want to thank President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama for the wonderful gift that they bestowed upon the city of Chicago and the South Side of Chicago. The communities of Woodlawn, Jackson Park, and Washington Park, and Bronzeville are intricately connected by geography, by history, and by traditions. And this presidential library we view as a catalytic investment, a catalytic development in our communities. And I want to tell you that Washington Park intends to ride the wave of opportunity that this presidential library center brings to us, and that we look forward to the spinoff benefits of economic development, improved schools, better infrastructure, working with the Obama Library Foundation, the people of Washington Park, and the University of Chicago. Thank you. Of course, there'd be someone who would forget, and that's me. I want to introduce my colleague, Leslie Hairston, Alderman of the 5th Ward. Leslie and I have already talked about the importance of connecting Jackson Park to Washington Park through the University of Chicago Midway. So I bring to you my esteemed colleague, Alderman Leslie Hairston.
Thank you, Alderman Dow. You know, one of the unique things about Jackson Park is that it does unite communities. It unites the communities of Hyde Park, the community of Woodlawn, and the community of South Shore. And it is connected through the Midway Plaisance to the communities of Washington Park, which also connects the community of the museums, which creates a Southside Museum campus. The Barack Obama Presidential Center proposed here in Jackson Park will be a testament to the legacy of the 44th President of the United States. I'd like to share a little history about the people who have come from this area and the impact that they have had on the world. This is where George Washington Gale Ferris created and debuted the Ferris wheel at the World's Columbian Exposition of 1893. This park is also the place where a young Daniel Burnham turned swampland into a magnificent showpiece for the world. I believe that the President and First Lady wanted the Presidential Center to be located in a place where it would be a reminder and symbol of hope for the communities that they spent the majority of their adult lives in. I know that the Obamas cherished the good in these neighborhoods and wanted to do what they could to make meaningful investments that would be a catalyst to change. The Presidential Center will be a monument that children can look at and remind them of their potential. This is their way of giving back. What this means for the surrounding communities is the international exposure, economic development, employment creation and opportunity that such a landmark creates, and most importantly, pride in the Southside communities. The President ran on a platform of hope and change. This is the hope that we want and the change that we need. Thank you. Oh, and now we will get a word from my esteemed colleague to the west of me, Willie Cochran.
Well, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Mr. Rogers would say the same, don't you think? Well, I am so glad to be standing here today. I want to do a little history with you. In 1977, I became a police officer in the 3rd District. And at that point, the Woodlawn community in Washington Park were the beats that I worked. And I looked for opportunity to invest and become a resident, and that's what I did. Looking because I knew that there was going to be a positive change by the University of Chicago. That's number one. Number two, being involved in the CDCs, bringing communities back to where they are today, holding strong as we have moved forward, looking at the hope and the promise of these neighborhoods. Today, I stand here today, and I thank the Obama family, I thank the University of Chicago, I thank all the residents who have been part of the Woodlawn and Washington Park community, and the Bronzeville community, and the Hyde Park community for their participation in keeping this area as attractive as it is and will continue to be. Washington Park will grow and be outstanding. Woodlawn will grow and be outstanding. South Shore will grow and be outstanding. And we will look back on this day in history, on this announcement of this building that has been built. Not just the building, but all of the opportunities of a black president who has done an outstanding job in this United States. And I'm sure that his presence here in this city of Chicago will continue to create opportunities in human life, liberty, and justice. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Zimmer. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, residents of all of these communities. We look forward to expanding and employing and growing in the future. Thank you. Now, Alderman King, 4th Ward.
Yeah, I'm actually not on the list. But as a freshman alderman, I'll take this opportunity anyway and say thank you to the President of the United States and the First Lady, who I'm proud to call friends, to bring this home to Chicago. It's a striking development that will impact not only the area that all of my colleagues have spoken about, but the city at large, and it just will be a national treasure. So thank you to them for bringing this here, and I won't take any more time that I'm not supposed to have.
All right, thank you, everybody, and I think we'll take some questions.
Folks have a question.
So just raise your hand.
Yep.
You know, you're talking, should I identify myself? Kathy
Yeah.
Oregon, the Chicago Tribune. In talking to some people from Washington Park, there's been a lot of disappointment and a lot of concern about whether the ancillary development will in fact benefit that neighborhood, and some concern that people will just be able to drive in off Lakeshore Drive Park, go to the museum and drive back out without exploring and coming to the neighborhood. Can you talk about some specifics that will address that?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned earlier, we're committed to the economic development in both Washington Park, Woodlawn, Jackson Park area. I know the university likewise has a commitment, and I think the mayor has put together an economic development advisory committee that is focused on the entire Southside community. So everybody understands the importance of economic development on the entire Southside and are committed to it. And I think that'll manifest itself in improvement in both communities. I don't know if the mayor wants to add anything or.
Sure. I would just say, Kathy, as you look at what as I talked to just a moment ago about the investment in the modernization of the 55th Garfield spot, the Green Line, we're going to make sure that as we make public investments both in the parks, in transportation, and in other amenities, that the impact of kind of the center of gravity or the centrifugal force of the library will then be a catalyst to other economic development. And just give you another example, a short time from now, we'll be opening the first and only bridge on 31st Street over Lakeshore Drive, as first suspension bridge, and then be announcing the improvements for the 43rd Street. So there'll be many ways from rail to street to bike to come access what is going to be a once in a life opportunity, but economic and cultural enrichment. So I would say, before you think that it's just people come in and come out, I think there's a lot of enrichment that will actually mushroom out from this investment, so the entire part of the South Side can not only participate, but making the critical investments in transportation and other amenities, so that actual benefit will actually go farther.
Time for another question. Marianne?
We also asked to get your reaction, both you and the mayor, on the Friends of the Park statement today that they will not engage in any kind of lawsuit.
Well, let me just make one point that I meant to make earlier. Kudos to all of our civic leaders around this process. There's just been the level of leadership, collaboration, and support around this process has been tremendous from our aldermen, the mayor, and many civic organizations have really come together in making this happen in a productive and collaborative way. And I'm proud of the entire city and the way this whole thing has come together. And I'm happy that Friends of the Park is supporting us, as have so many other institutions and civic leaders around Chicago. So this is, I think, a moment that we can all be proud of in terms of seeing how the city can come together around a project that's intended to benefit all of us.
I'm trying to keep it short. Thank God. I'm glad that they're not going to sue, because this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So I thank them for agreeing not to do that, because this is an opportunity that you don't want to be tangled up in the courts. And it's a great opportunity with both DuSable Museum, Museum of Science and Industry, to enrich the cultural enrichment on a museum campus, complemented by the University of Chicago. And so I think this is an example where the whole city will come together to embrace this tremendous opportunity economically, culturally, and educationally. And I forgot to mention, Kathy, to your question, and it fits in that the University of Chicago, not just our public transportation, what they did on the arts, the currency exchange, the bookstore. So there's a series of other investments that ring around from Bronzeville and the Quad community that all the way, including Washington Park, Woodlawn, where Dr. Leon Finney has done tremendous work, that this investment will then build out, and we're doing a series of things from the public sector, the university, and the neighborhood groups that all the aldermen represent to further that economic and cultural enrichment.
I don't see why here from DuSable Museum, but the concern in the community, there we go, maybe that's the person I need to ask. The question is, how is this specifically going to benefit that institution? Because that's a concern of a lot of people who live in this community.
Well, I think it's a compliment. I think the more is better. I think I mentioned the DuSable Museum in the earlier parts of my conversation as a really important asset of the Southside community, and we think that another institution that brings more traffic, more interest, should also benefit DuSable, and I think it's appropriate that the first African American president's presidential library be so proximate to an institution of the standing and importance of the DuSable Museum. So we look forward to being partners. And Perry and I have had a number of conversations already about things that we might be able to do together to enhance both institutions. Yeah.
I don't mean to do this, but if you look at all the research, when people go to a museum, and the reason museums and cultural and educational institutions are clustered is they don't go to one, they go to multiple. And so there's that greater foot traffic is going to benefit the entire set of the museums that make up the museum campus. It's just what happens when why museums and cultural institutions cluster is because when people go, they don't go for a single entity, they experience a multiple of one of the cultural offerings that are there.
And I know we have leadership here from the Museum of Science and Industry, and I think they look forward to having us as a neighbor, and they expressed that early in the process and have been very supportive. So we're happy about that.
Can you discuss next steps and the timeline going forward from here?
Yeah, well, there's a lot to do, right? We're putting together the design team and all the different disciplines that go into putting together the right players to pull this off, and the team is working very hard on that. There's a lot of programming work that we're doing. What does this thing look like? What does it do? What are its programs? And a lot of work is going into that. We have a lot of talent, not only from the city of Chicago, but from all over the country that are helping us think through those issues. The presence of the Obama Foundation and the Obama Presidential Center isn't specifically tied to a building, but it's tied to an idea and a cause, which we think will become active early in 2017. But having said that, we think it's going to take us 12, 18 months of thinking through design, and then a period of time to construct the building, obviously, but sometime in 2021 we should open our doors. But you won't have to wait until 2021 to feel the presence of the Obama Presidential Center, because we won't be specifically tied to the building. Anything else? Thank you all for coming.